The Eaters of World meet the Emperor's fangirls. This is a Warhammer 40k battle report. Well, hello, it's me, your wildest dream, your worst nightmare, and Jubilee Titan of Joy. So in my last game, I took my Sisters of Battle up against the World Eaters. And I'm sitting here trying to think, and I believe World Eaters might be the army that I faced the most. It seems a really popular second army choice in the local meta. Maybe like Chaos Space Marines I've played more, but no, World Eaters are a really common matchup for me. And while most of the time I'm pretty confident going up into this matchup, this was the first time since getting my new codex and the new points update. And melee armies are kind of ascendant right now, so it was anyone's game. Now, World Eaters have a pretty standard strategy. There's basically no shooting in the armor except for the Lord of Skulls and the occasional plasma pistol on a character. So they basically run straight at you and they have a crazy threat range. Most of their stuff can advance and charge. It's not hard for them to get into your deployment zone on the first turn, and then you're faced with a cage situation. But I've got some new tools to sort of deal with that. I was playing the Army of Faith detachment, which focuses a lot around jump pack sisters. And since the codex dropped, the sisters now have an infiltrate unit. And the infiltrators are a very cheap unit that can provide a useful screen to slow their army down. Now, fortunately, I had the opportunity to go first in this game. So my main goal on turn 1 is to not get dropped in my deployment zone and to screen out his bigger charges. And I draw the secondaries engage in all fronts, that's to be in all 4 corners of the board, and cleanse, which is perform actions on objectives. We're also playing the primary mission, Purge the Foe, which gets you 4 points for destroying an enemy unit each turn. Extra points for destroy more, but that's not a thing that I'm going to be able to get against World Eaters. So my novitiates move up and provide this screen, which you see here later, blocking the Lord Invocatus and Angron in the deployment zone. I've got several scout units too, so I'm able to be pretty aggressive in this first turn. And sisters are they're so glass cannon, so what I did is I took my 10 brick of Zephyrim, the melee jump pack sisters, being led by a cannoness, and charged right into the front line. And what I managed to do is be able to take out a unit. They also took out like a random 8-bound or something like that. Now, this was not a particularly good trade as far as points, because that's like a 190 point unit. Maybe I'm almost closer to 200. That is absolutely going to get schmacked the next turn. Actually, I'm pretty sure they got basically wiped out by the clapback. But I destroyed a unit. I'd mangled up the front line. I'd gotten into all 4 corners. And I managed to cleanse in on 2 objectives. So I got 12 points in my first turn. That's just about a perfect first turn. So the World Eater turn 1 is pretty devastating. I think he takes out 5 or 6 units. I mean, you have a Lord of Skulls, you have Angron, you have a bunch of Berserkers, and mostly just 2 big units of 8-bound. Now, Angron is very scary, but he's not that scary. His main issue is you want to take him out pretty early because he might just start coming back to life. The real issue is the Lord of Skulls because he's got really big anti-anything guns and just an absurd melee attack. So he's going to destroy most things that he touches. Now, the savior of basically every game these days is Morvenn Vahl in the Paragon Warsuit scene right here. And a really interesting secondary got pulled after I'd taken out Angron, and then it became his turn for the Lord of Skulls to come and do some serious damage. Because Lord of Skulls is about 9 inches away from Morvenn Vahl's unit, and he picks the secondary marked for death. That means I have to pick 3 units on the board, and if he manages to destroy one of them, you get 5 points, which is a pretty good secondary. Now, the obvious choice is to pick something hiding on a backfield objective out of range that he can't do anything to, and you've usually got a couple options, and I did. I had 2 units parked way back on some objectives that he couldn't get to. Or your option is to pick a really tough unit, and Morvenn Vahl's unit is a very obvious one. But I decided to play a little 4-dimensional chess, and I'm actually pretty proud of this move right here. Because I have a very tough, but not very strategically useful Rhino right there. It's a transport, but it's currently empty. Morvenn Vahl's unit has a better save, but it's got less toughness, and it is more strategically important. So I choose the Rhino as my marked for death option. And I play my opponent Derek a lot, and he's great. And I'm not trying to laugh at him confounding, but you saw him trying to do the math of, can I afford to just shoot one of the Lord of Skulls big guns at that and hope it takes it out? Or will I miss out on marked for death points? And he chose to shoot at the Rhino to take it out because he was pretty sure that if he split fire, he wasn't going to be able to take out both of them. Because the Lord of Skulls could still charge in. So sure enough, the Lord of Skulls gigantic, terrible guns take that out, and I do give up 5 points there, but Morvenn Vahl survives, and then he does fail. It was a 9 or a 10 inch, I think it was a 10 inch charge at that point. Rerolled, couldn't get it. So here comes the Fury, and honestly, Morvenval's unit is so freaking powerful. I'm actually kind of not loving it because it basically is the game. I've had multiple opponents talk through the game at the end and go, I really think if I just focused on taking her out, then the rest of the game would have been a breeze. And I frankly agree. I don't know, I wish we had a little bit more flexibility. But in the next round of shooting, Morvenval's unit seriously picks up like 5 8-bound and then charges in and destroys the Lord of Skulls. This detachment has a really good stratagem that gets you extra AP, and so I did a pretty tricky play where a mere 5 Seraphim were able to drop in the backfield and shoot at some cultists that were sitting on his objective. But cultists have a 6-up save, and with 1 AP, those hand flamers automatically go through. So they were pretty quick able to move on to that point and hold that. And I was starting to sweep primary. Angron came back and started to do some real damage though. Then there was a turn where I had multiple secondaries fail in a row because they were secondaries that didn't complete until my next turn. A lot of these secondary objectives are not all, what happens is you declare someone is going to perform the action, and if they're still alive on your next turn, then you get the points. But there's now a double incentive for your opponent to take them out, because not only do they prevent you from scoring those points, but come your next turn, you're still stuck with that secondary. I feel kind of like that's not maybe the intent, like how it's supposed to, like you commit to doing that and then you just wait to see whether it fails or succeeds. But currently, the way it's written, that's how it goes. So he got some big charges off. He knocked me off a couple of points, and I was failing some secondaries, so it looked like I was not going to be able to pull through. And so for the first time this edition, I decided to do one of the secret missions. I don't 100% understand how these works. In fact, in that game, someone explained to me that you picked one. I thought you chose them randomly, which is now a really attractive option because one of the secret missions is called Command Insertion, which involves getting your warlord onto your opponent's home objective by the end of the game. Or maybe still there at the end of the game, something like that. I don't know, I could see a really viable strategy where you hold Morvenval off and don't bring her in until turn 3 in your opponent's backfield. Clear out whatever's back there. Morvenval is so killy that usually she's struggling to be around anything to shoot and charge into at the same time. So Morvenval moves into the backfield, takes out a couple more characters, takes out some more 8-bound, and then, yeah, moves on to the final objective and just sits there for the rest of the game. I really didn't have very many units left, so I was really struggling to do the secondary, so it ended up being a pretty close game. I did end up winning 74 to 66, I think, making me look to that first turn where I scored those 12 points and knew that if I'd played super cagey and safe or only went to get like 2 of those points, I don't think I would have been able to win this game. I feel like I'm continue to win, but I'm like just scraping by the skin of my teeth. I know I'm not playing the most meta detachment right now, but I just really like it. But it does kind of continue to lean into just my over dependence on Morvenval as a unit. Because Army of Faith, you can throw 2 6s on an Overwatch. Overwatching with melta-guns that are very likely to hit with full rerolls is extremely, extremely good. Anyway, if you like these long-form battle reports, there's a whole playlist down here of all my past victories. They're not all victories, get real. Also, keep paying attention, because there's some creative artistic endeavors afoot that I think you all will be very excited about. I know I am. Thanks for watching and have a Warhammer day. That's nothing. Jubilee, come